afraid of having the baby come out. I hated being pregnant, but the entire time I was really calm, and I was like, yeah, this is going to happen. It's pretty cool. This is going to be great. Nothing like my tonsils. And so I went with midwives. Now, at 11 weeks pregnant, I told my midwives, hey, I have this weird bleeding disorder where I just keep bleeding. It's called a factor 11 deficiency, and a lot of people don't know what that is. It's hemophilia. Just a little tiny hemophilia. It's the hemophilia light, right? So you can have surgeries, but you just got to, tell people that you have it, which I did. And they went, okay, I've never heard of that, but we'll look into it. And I was like, okay, as long as we're fine. 11 weeks. Perfect pregnancy. Nothing gone wrong. Until 36 weeks, when my file passed by an OB, and I got called into their office. And they were like, are you fucking kidding me? You have a factor 11 deficiency and you're with midwives? Meaning, no, bad idea. Absolutely bad idea. I then got transferred care into a high-risk OB, which I'm like, okay, that's fine. But then it was like 10,000 appointments, and everybody was like, are you serious? You have a factor 11 deficiency. This is ridiculous that I'm seeing you at 36 weeks. And so I had two choices of delivery for the safest possible outcome. One, general anesthetic C-section where I'm completely knocked out, which I'm like, I don't like that idea. Or they're like, or 100% natural. I'm like, ugh. But I did have my tonsils out. So I opted for completely natural because they can't put an epidural in my back, so there's a huge chance that I will just bleed through. They can't use forceps or a vacuum on the child because they don't know if he has it either, and it could kill him. Now, general anesthesia, blackout C-section, let's just call it that because that's what it is, I knew would have severe mental repercussions. Because the entire time that my son was growing in my stomach, I didn't really connect to him. He was just this guy. He was a killjoy. I couldn't have wine in public. You mean to tell me the entire country of Italy's like, oh, I can't drink because I have a baby? No, that's horse shit right there. I'm Portuguese. My grandma's like, you have. Easy, grandma. But I didn't connect. He was just kicking me from the inside. I didn't really know him. He was just growing there, making me feel like crap and making me get big. So I didn't connect with him. And I know if you knock me out and I wake up 3 hours later and you hand me a baby and go, here's your kid, I'd be like, is it? I don't have any recollection of this, but I'm pretty sore. Are you sure? And I don't know what would have happened to him in that time I was out. And worst of all, I would not have seen his father see his son for the first time. I would be like the 8th person to hold my son. And I was like, no, I need that. That's one thing I'm going to do. So my due date was December 8th. Now, he had no sign of coming. I even went and got my hair did that day because I'm like, I'll coax him out. I'll get all those highlights in. And then my water will break. It'll be great. December 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th. They all started passing by. And the OB was like, I'm getting worried because your baby's getting bigger and no sign. And if he gets stuck, you're going to end up in an emergency C-section. Now, I've assembled a team of, the top people at the hospital. You have, the head of anesthesiology, the head of hematology, the head of pediatrics, and myself, and all these nurses know So if we can induce you or just schedule the C-section, we'll be there in case of anything. And I was like, well, I'm not having a C-section. You're not doing that to me because I need to be awake. And I go, okay, we can induce you. And I'm like, see, the thing about when you get induced in labor, it forces your body to get out that kid. So when you go naturally, your body sets off other hormones that can help you cope with it. But when you're chemically induced, there's no coping. It is just violent and painful. The contractions are harder and stronger, and they don't give you a break. So I was like, well, that can't be worse than a tonsillectomy, so let's do it. So on December 5th, they induce me. And you know what? I'm walking around. I'm getting into the birth. I'm like, I can do this. I can do this. And it hurts. I'm not going to lie, it hurts. Nowhere near tonsillectomy, but it hurt. So after 3 hours of walking around, I feel that, they're getting stronger and stronger. And I'm like, definitely like 3 centimeters for sure. They come and check me. They're like, okay, you have not dilated at all. But, we'll come back in 3 hours and we'll see how you're doing. And I'm like, okay, easy. Start walking around more. And it's just harder and stronger. But the entire time I'm like, I'm not throwing in the towel. I'm not throwing in the towel. I need to see my son being born. I need to have that because I'm terrified that I'm not going to connect with him at all. He's just going to be this tiny, adorable stranger. And I need to see that. I can't be cheated out of that. So another 6 hours go by. They come and check me. They're like, oh, and I'm like, yes, I'm probably at 7. They're like, you're at 1 centimeter. I go into the shower, which normally calms down cramps. Everybody's poking at me while I'm naked, and I'm like, get out of here. And they're like, the contractions are getting stronger, and it's about like 6 hours of this. So I say, okay, I can't have an epidural, correct? And they're like, no, you can't. What can I have? And they're like, well, we can give you morphine, which we will inject. It takes half an hour to kick in, lasts for about an hour and a half, and then half hour to come down, and then we'll come and give you more. Or we can give you fentanyl. And I'm like, yeah, I was like, what's fentanyl? And they're like, well, we'll give you a little machine that every 6 minutes you can give yourself a hit. And I'm like, give me fentanyl. Now, if you don't know what fentanyl is, whenever you're walking in Parkdale and people are like extra goofy, fentanyl. A lot of people dying from it though, so let's do it from fentanyl. But they gave me the fentanyl machine, and every 6 minutes I was hitting it, and I'm pretty sure that machine did not get to 601 without getting hit again. But they only gave it to me for 4 hours. So after the 4 hours shut down, and it helped, but it didn't help. I was just getting really high for 2 seconds when I wasn't in excruciating pain. So it'd be like 2 seconds of not excruciating pain, then 10 minutes. And then 2 seconds, and then 10 minutes. Now the nurse came running in and I was screaming and crying. I was like, machine is broken, the machine is broken. And she's like, we can't give you any more. I'm like, yes you can. I am the factor 11 patient. I am almost famous here. Because there was 3 hospitals that wanted that birth. So she's like, fuck it. And she gave me another 4 hours and doubled the dose. Now, all in all, after 16 hours of being stubborn, I broke as a human being. There was no, normally even through really dark stuff, I'm cracking a joke. There were no jokes being cracked. I didn't even scream. That's how painful it was. I was on the floor, shaking and crying, apologizing to my husband, being like, I can't do this. I'm just going to die. And not, not joking about that. I'd be like, just tell him I loved him, because I couldn't do it, and I've never felt that helpless or that in pain in my entire life. Now, I was begging for an epidural, but nobody would give it to me. The anesthesiologists that were, it was their shift. They're like, no, we're not touching you. No, fuck you. We're not touching you. Go away. And the nurses were like, you can just have a C-section. Just tell us. It'll be all over. You'll go to sleep. And I'm like, no, I need to see my son. Now, the morning came the next day on the 16th, and, it was afternoon, and the head anesthesiologist who was on my case, her shift started, and she walked in, all happy. She's like, hey, I just wanted to see how things were. She saw me on the floor. She saw the pain in my face, and she's like, I'll be right back. And I remember going, I couldn't even tell her to fuck off. I was in that much pain. And I love telling people to fuck off if you don't know me. She leaves. She comes back 20 minutes later, and she goes, okay, I just called the hemophilia clinic that you already saw. And I'm like, and? And she's like, and I can't give you an epidural. And I was like, Like, that's when tears started flowing hard. I was like, thanks. And she's like, but I can give you a spinal. And I'm like, what does that mean? She's like, that means you can be awake for a C-section. Without even a second, I said, prep the fucking room. Why are we talking? I start grabbing my IV and my fentanyl machine because I'm not leaving them behind. And I'm like, let's go! And I'm like in so much pain, I'm stopping. And they're like, sit down. I'm like, no! The OB on call she comes in and she's like, okay, so we're going to do this. I'm like, yep, like just talking over her so rudely. She stops talking to me and she starts telling my husband what we're doing because she has to by law. And I'm like, that's great. Like, I left her behind. I'm walking. I don't even know where I'm going. And the whole time I'm thinking, some bitch better not be in there. We'll pull her out. Now I'm waiting, like, just shaking a shamble of a person. And this other anesthesiologist comes over. And she's cute. But she looked like she had 9 cats. And she probably put them all to sleep every night. Like, she was fucking weird. And she's this short little lady, and she goes, what have you had to eat today? And I'm just like, an orange? And then she goes, no! And I was like, what? And she's like, is that all? And I'm like, yeah? And she's like, what have you drank? I'm like, water and Gatorade. No! She screams again. She's like, only clear liquids and no food. And I'm like, do you mind explaining to me why you're yelling at me right now? Because you're not the one in pain. This is backwards. And she's like, if there's an emergency and we have to put you under, you could throw up and choke and die. I'm like, great. Thanks for telling me now, because I wasn't planning on having a C-section. They get me in on the table, and they bend me over, and right before they put the last, the needles in, I'm sitting there talking, and I'm like, this is the right idea to my midwife. She's like, yes, yes. And then they put the needles in, and then all of a sudden, it just gets cold, and the pain goes away, but not before I feel one last gush of something fall out of my body. And I go, I think I peed. And they're like, no, you didn't. I'm like, well, I'm not cleaning it up. And then the pain was gone. The pain was gone. I started crying. I was like, thank you, everybody. Thank you. I'm sitting, and they're like, starting to lay me down. And then they're like, okay, take the fentanyl. And I'm like, no. Not before, like, one last And then they wheeled him away. And it was like in Castaway when he loses Wilson. Because we had been through so much. I was like, K-Pax, no. And they took him away. And then I was laying there and I was like, I can breathe. The pain is gone. I'm laying down. But then I realized how high I was because the pain was gone. So that 2 seconds came really long. I was real high, guys. I was on 8 hours of fentanyl. So when I thought I was whispering, I was not whispering. And I remember this, I'm looking at my midwife, and she's like, hey, how's it going? I'm like, good. And she's like, you don't look so well. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I don't feel so good right now. I feel like I'm going to... And then I just projectile vomited across the operating room. And now I fully get why people die when they throw up on their backs, because it feels horrific. That's like something you don't want to remember. They start bringing all these little like kidney-shaped bowls, and I'm just filling it. Just filling it. They got a suction thing, and it's coming down the side, because I'm like, that. But the whole time I'm throwing up, I'm staring that anesthesiologist dead in the eyes. And then after I stop throwing up, I look at her, I'm like, maybe it was more than an orange. And she's just like, I'm looking around, there's like 9 women running around, and I look at my midwife, because there's like one 60-year-old man. And I go to her, psst, full volume. She's like, what? And I'm like, who's that old guy? And he comes up, he's like, I'm Dr. So-and-so, I'm gonna be assisting, the procedure. I'm the general surgeon here. I'll be doing your scars, your stitches. And I'm like, thank you! Like, cause I don't know my volume of my voice. But then I turn back to her and I'm like, hey, is my vagina showing? And she looks down and she goes, yeah? And I'm like, you fucking watch that guy. You watch him with both eyes. Like, what a stupid thing to say, right? Because, like, he's in charge of my stitches. I'm laying there in my midwife, and I'm going over the things in my head, and I'm like, yeah, this is the right idea, correct? And she's like, yes, it is. I'm like, because, there's no more pain. She's like, no more pain, yeah. I didn't give up. I did like so many hours of labor. I tried my best. She's like, absolutely. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna shit on a table. And she's like, and save my vagina. I think this is a pretty great idea. Now, they go, Rhiannon, can you feel this? And I'm like, no. And they're like, can you feel this? I'm like, no. And then I'm like, are they cutting me open? And she's like, yes. Then all I hear is like, bring in the father. And so they make my husband, Graham, walk around. And he comes, and he's the best. He comes and he gives me a kiss on the cheek. And all I have to say is like, I'm sorry I puked. So I'm just waiting there, and I'm waiting there. And then all of a sudden, I hear a cry. And my midwife goes, now if you look to your left, you can see your baby. And I'm like, great. I look to my right, and the nurse is like, no. And I see, and they carry him out. And I was like, that's just wonderful. Now the sad thing is I was on way too much drugs that I didn't really take in the moment, but I at least got to see it. And Graham cried, and it was beautiful. And they brought him over to me, and they put him right to my face. And the first thing I say to him is, sorry, baby, I puked.